Dragon Quest: The Dark Prince is a spin-off of the popular RPG series that focuses on collecting over 500 monsters and using them for battle. Much like the games that have come before it, it uses a cel-shaded style to depict its world, with bold outlines, vibrant colours, and a cartoonish flair that will feel instantly familiar to fans. On the technical side, it targets 30 FPS when docked or in handheld, with a dynamic resolution scaling between 720 and 900, but the frame rate does take a hit during more busier scenes such as crowded hubs or moments during battle with a lot of effects, and can drop into the low 20s or even higher teens, especially in handheld mode, though it really makes the game unplayable thanks to the slow nature of its turn-based setup. These technical hiccups are mitigated somewhat by the game's simple art style, and the world itself is full of personality thanks to its range of different regions, from the lush open plains to the fiery lava fields and eerie dungeons that help the visuals shine despite the technical constraints of the system. In battle, the monsters themselves are lovingly detailed, with plenty of animations which are smooth and lively, and each and every attack comes across with a real weight thanks to the various effects that accompany them. When it comes down to it, The Dark Prince delivers a visually pleasing adventure, with its monster designs, colourful world, expressive characters and animations carrying the torch of Toriyama's legacy with pride, but it's clear to see that the aging hardware does drag it down a bit and prevents it from reaching its full potential. It's a beautiful game that deserves a more powerful canvas, and thankfully it's also available on PC, but for those of you who just own a Switch, it's still really enjoyable to play. Metroid Prime Remastered brings the GameCube classic into the modern era, with a stunning graphical overhaul that demonstrates the Switch's capacity for polished, modernized visuals while staying true to the original's atmosphere. The moody, alien sci-fi aesthetic that evokes isolation and wonder is in full swing, but it's elevated even further, with the game's world offering a huge amount of diversity in its biomes, from lush jungles to icy caverns, fiery depths, and ancient ruins, all being recreated with new high-resolution textures, enhanced geometry, and subtle ambient effects like falling leaves or heat distortion that breathes new life into these spaces. Of course, Samus herself is painstakingly detailed, with her power suit being a real standout, gleaming with a reflective visor and little touches like scratches and glowing lights that only add to the clear love and care that went into the port. Now, whilst playing with the console dock, the game hits 900p and 600 in handheld mode, but what will really blow you away is that the game is locked at 60 FPS and maintains it across nearly every scenario you'll find yourself in. From the quiet moments of exploring to the chaotic boss fights filled with heavy effects, it stands strong, making it a technical benchmark for the system. It ends up being a night and day improvement over the original, with its higher resolution, better textures, and dynamic lighting, transforming the game into what feels like a complete remake rather than a simple remaster. For Switch players, Metroid Prime is a showcase of what the system can achieve, and is a love letter to Metroid fans and a reminder of the sheer brilliance of the team behind it. The Switch is no stranger to racing games, with the likes of Mario Kart and Fast RMX filling its ranks, but when it comes to the best looking, the title has to go to Rise Race the Future. What makes the game unique is the cars can seamlessly transition from land to water, bringing a unique twist to each race. Its visual identity is rooted in its near-future premise, where sleek and aerodynamic cars race across up to 64 different tracks that span desert cliffs, lush valleys, and snowy peaks, each enriched with natural elements such as waterfalls and wide open water zones that make each of them visually striking. A nice touch that Race the Future delivers is that it gives you the option to choose from two different graphics modes. One focuses on performance, where the visuals are slightly scaled back, such as lower texture quality and the reduction of detail in distant scenery to offer 60 FPS during play, or the Fidelity mode that pushes the system and offers crisper textures, better lighting and shadow definition, but draws the game back to 30 FPS with everything set to high. Regardless of which mode you choose, in docked it hits 1080 and in handheld you'll be looking at 720, and it would be nice to see more games on the Switch offer this choice. For Switch owners craving a visually impressive racer in 2025, Rise Race the Future is a solid option, and even though it may not be a graphical revolution, especially with far more detailed racers available elsewhere, the sheer beauty and performance that the developers managed to get out of the system is something that needs to be commended, and with it being available for such a low price, it's definitely something that racing fans should check out. After the huge success of the first game, it was only a matter of time until we'd see a sequel, and Octopath Traveler 2 builds upon the original's groundbreaking HD 2D art style, pushing the hardware and expanding the scope of the series. It's essentially a fusion of 16-bit inspired pixel art with high-definition 3D environments that bring the world of Solestia to life, with each region offering its own look and feel. From the sun-drenched deserts to misty harbours and dense forests, it always feels like you're exploring something new, and with the 3D tilt of the ground paired with the depth of field blur, it creates a sort of storybook effect that's only enhanced by subtle touches such as reflections on water or glowing campfires that give the game a cozy and charming feel. Of course, as with most RPGs, battles are a huge part of the experience, and Octopath Traveler 2 is no exception. Each attack or spell is accompanied by a range of different effects, casting soft glows that interact with the environment and characters that add a real amount of style to each and every action you take. It refines the HD 2D formula and creates a world that's both nostalgic and breathtakingly fresh, with its vibrant landscapes, expressive characters and impressive effects pushing the Switch to its limits. The rock-solid 30 FPS and crisp resolution deliver the action in a precise and polished fashion, ensuring that you're never pulled out of the game by technical issues. So if you're a fan of JRPGs or the first game in the series, then Octopath Traveler 2 is one game on the Switch that definitely deserves your time. After the absolute train wreck that was Alien's Colonial Marines, a lot was riding on Isolation to deliver, and taking a brief glance at some of the reviews at the time of its release, you'd be forgiven for thinking that it didn't live up to the expectations. But I for one truly enjoyed the more basic and old school approach the game took, which resulted in it being one of the finest survival horrors in recent memory. The game's art direction captures the retro futuristic vibe of the movies, with bulky CRT monitors, flickering green screens and a gritty industrial space station drenched in shadows and neon glows. Not many people thought that the Switch would be able to handle it, and it's really hard to understand how they even got this up and running. And sure, it's clear to see that several corners have been cut in order to do so, specifically with its texture detail, ambient occlusion and motion blur, but it does gain superior image clarity thanks to TAA, and with a dynamic resolution being implemented that fluctuates depending on the action, the level of detail is simply stunning, and it holds up quite well when compared to the other versions. Various effects such as the lighting and shadows work together to make each and every room you explore come along with a severe sense of dread that really amps up the scares and pulls you into the game even further. Overall, in 2025, and with the Switch's successor on the horizon, Alien Isolation stands as the pinnacle of what the console can achieve, and thanks to the talent of Feral Interactive, it ended up being one of the best versions of the game that can be enjoyed off the big screen, allowing you to take the adventure with you and delve into its world of scares and tension wherever you like. So if you never got round to playing it when it first released, the Switch version is definitely worth picking up. First appearing on the GameCube way back in 2001, the Pikmin series has always been one of my favourites from Nintendo, and the fourth entry is easily the best it has to offer. It builds on the game's tradition of rendering environments that blend realism with a toy-like style, using soft textures, bright colours and a gentle depth of field effect to create a diorama-like atmosphere for all of the action to play out in. From gardens to kitchens and beaches, each location is teeming with life, and the Pikmin, red, blue, yellow and newcomers like ice and glow variants are simple yet expressive, with smooth, rounded designs and subtle animations that add a lot of personality to each type you encounter. The same can be said for the enemies themselves, which strike the perfect balance between cute and menacing, with dynamic behaviours that make each fight quite lively. Now when running in docked, the game hits 1080p, and in handheld you can expect a little dip with it running at 720, and Nintendo's optimization once again steals the show and allows all of the action to play out at 30 FPS, which is rock solid. Even with dozens of Pikmin on screen, environmental hazards like water or fire and enemy interactions not affecting it one bit. Compared to Pikmin 3, the fourth game ups the ante with far denser environments, richer textures and smoother performance. For fans of the series or newcomers, Pikmin 4's graphics are truly impressive, and a proof that creativity and optimization can breathe new life into an aging console. By focusing on stylized detail over raw polygon counts, Pikmin 4 achieves a polished, cohesive look that feels fresh yet nostalgic, regardless of if it's on the big screen or in your hands. Developed by Arc System Works, Dragon Ball FighterZ brings the intense action of the anime to the Nintendo Switch, and given how now with it being over 8 years old, the port faced the challenge of adapting a visually ambitious game to a less powerful system. The result is a testament to optimization, delivering an incredible experience that holds its own, albeit with some compromises. At the core of its graphical presentation is the cel-shaded art style that mimics the look of the show with an insane amount of precision. Known for their previous work on Guilty Gear and BlazBlue, their mastery is clearly on display, with characters like Goku, Vegeta and Frieza being rendered with vibrant colours and fluid animations that mirror their animated counterparts frame for frame. On the Switch, this art direction remains intact and is arguably the game's greatest strength. The stylized approach, favouring clean lines and vivid hues over photorealistic detail, suits the console's limitations perfectly and allows the game to run at 1080 whilst docked in 720 in handheld. And while the game does target a locked 60 FPS, an absolute must for fighting games, it does buckle occasionally during the more cinematic sequences or when multiple particle effects overlap. These drops, typically into the 50s, are brief and rarely impact the gameplay, but are more noticeable whilst playing in handheld. It's clear to see that a few trade-offs were made in order to achieve this, most notably the stages where background elements and distant objects use low-resolution textures to save power, leading to some pop-in during stage transitions, but with just how fast the action plays out, it's something that you'll hardly notice, although it's not as impressive as the other versions available on the different consoles, and ends up being one of the Switch's most graphically impressive games. Building on the legacy of Xenoblade Chronicles and its sequel, Chronicles 3 pushes the Switch's aging chipset to new heights, with its massive open world, intricate combat and cinematic story. It retains the signature blend of anime-inspired character designs and semi-realistic environments that see the world of Aeonos absolutely bursting with life, from towering mountains to cascading waterfalls and sprawling colonies that stretch far into the distance. Each region feels distinct yet cohesive, with it all being tied together with a sense of scale that rivals Breath of the Wild. The atmosphere of each of these locations is what really helps sell the quality of the adventure, and the lighting plays a pivotal role, with a dynamic day and night cycle casting golden sunrises, and the cel-shaded look ensures the characters pop against the world's softer textures. All of this visual flair does come at a cost though, and it's most notably with the game's resolution. Even though it does target 1080 and 720 depending if you're playing on the TV or on the go, it employs dynamic scaling and can see it dropping as low as 540 or even 360 in truly action-heavy scenes. Of course, this is done to help hold the rate at which the game plays, and for the most part it does hold strong at 30 FPS, but in handheld mode it can drop into the 20s, but it's nothing that ruins the experience as a whole. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a truly ambitious game, and it reflects Monolith Soft's expertise in squeezing out every ounce of performance from the Switch, but the console's age shows, with resolution dips, pop-in and blur reminding you just how old the system is. With that being said, for the system it's running on, it absolutely maximizes its potential, and is one of the best looking games that you'll find on it. First appearing on the GameCube as a launch title, the third installment in the Ghost Hunting series landed just over 2 years into the Switch's life and takes advantage of every last drop of power it offers. Set in the last resort, a sprawling, multi-themed hotel, the game's graphics are defined by its exaggerated proportions and a meticulous attention to detail that brings its world to life in a way that only Nintendo knows how. Each floor of the hotel is a visual feast, from the medieval grandeur of the Castle McFrights to the lush, overgrown greenery of the garden suites. The areas are packed with detail, all crafted in a playful aesthetic that suits the series perfectly. Luigi himself is a real standout, with plenty of expressive animations like his terrified yelps, shaky steps and triumphant vacuum swings that translate to the other characters and enemies quite well. But the game's secret weapon is its lighting system that sees dynamic shadows dance as your torch sweeps across each room, with glowing ghost trails and eerie ambient effects, creating a spooky yet inviting atmosphere for the player. The poltergust suction and blast mechanics are another highlight, as when in use, curtains billow, dust swirls and furniture topples, whereas coins and debris scatter realistically, with the physics-driven interactions making each room in the hotel feel alive and responsive. Compared to Luigi's Mansion 2, the third installment is a true generational leap. It's sharper, more dynamic and far more detailed, delivering a steady 30 FPS whether you're playing on the big screen or in handheld whilst on the go. It ends up being a near perfect visual package that's only limited by the console's restraints, but with its playful style and moody atmosphere, it's something you do not want to skip. Tears of the Kingdom built upon the foundations set by Breath of the Wild, with both of them sharing the same art style, engine and much of the same world, but it expanded the scope of the game dramatically, with you now being able to explore the skies above as well as the depths below. It absolutely pushes the Switch to its limits, and targets a resolution of 900p whilst docked and 720 in handheld, although it does scale even lower during some of the more demanding scenes, with the frame rate hitting a consistent 30, but it's not without a few hiccups should the action heat up. This is mainly in dense areas such as bustling villages, complex sky islands, or moments when heavy particle effects occur, but it's nothing that detracts from the overall presentation. Compared to its predecessor, Tears of the Kingdom introduces more ambitious environmental effects as well, such as volumetric lighting streams through clouds and improved weather that adds a lot of depth to the world. Shadows are softer, water reflections are more convincing, and particle effects like sparks from machinery or swirling winds are far more pronounced. But it does come at a cost, mainly the texture quality, which does remain modest, with some surfaces appearing blurry up close, and pop-in is evident for distant objects like trees or enemies, occasionally breaking the immersion when exploring. But with the limitations of the Switch itself, it's completely expected. For Switch owners, this is one of the best looking games on the system. It's not flawless by any means, but its beauty lies in its ability to captivate despite its flaws. Well, that does it for another video. Keep an eye out for the next part, as that will be coming up soon, so don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell to get notified about new videos. You can follow me on all of the socials, which are linked below, to stay up to date, and also join my growing community on Discord to meet many like-minded gamers to continue the conversation with. I'd like to give a special shout out to my Patreon supporters: Rhino, Skill Jim, Shuden, Richard, Amy, Daniel, Dio, Omar, Strider, Pierre, Carl, Awesome Jacket Dude, Maximus, Scott, Alfred, Terry, Ryan, Alex, GameCube Galaxy, Curse Salaryman, Fake and Paddy J for their continued support that helps make these videos possible. If you're interested in joining the Discord or supporting the channel through Patreon, you'll find all of these links down below. As always, thanks for taking the time to check the video out. I'll catch you next time.